In the year 2035, the virtual reality game Warlord VR changed the whole world. Jaehyun was one of those who, through this game, dreamed of changing his life. He dedicated his life to this game, but what he received in return was betrayal. He was betrayed by his friends. This betrayal took everything from him, but it also gave him something else, a chance to start everything again. He had the chance. From now on, he would not belong to anyone. He would not play with others, no matter what the result was. He would prove that it was possible to win even alone, while the rest would share the prize of victory among themselves. Jaehyun used to roll dice to divide it, but ended up eating all the loot alone. Starting from here, the story of Jaehyun's solo game life begins. The game starts inside the Valabri forest, which appeared peaceful from the outside and seemed brightly lit, but inside, in a certain portion, a wounded man was seen. He was clearly tired, and his breathing was fast. There was weariness and injuries marked on his face. The condition was very serious because he was surrounded by a group of fighters and many dead bodies were lying on the ground, showing that a fierce fight had taken place. The leader of the enemy group was tense, waiting for someone who had not yet arrived. One of his subordinates asked him what to do next. The boss, cold and strict, ordered in a harsh tone to kill the man immediately. Then a powerful fighter stepped forward and launched a fierce attack on the wounded man. At the critical moment, the injured man managed to save himself. He was terrified of what was going to happen next. Suddenly, a young boy rushed in, arriving exactly on time. Stepping between the attack, he saved the man from dying. With one strike, he threw the attacker away. The injured man's companions heaved a sigh of relief, and Jaehyun called the boy by his name, thanking him for his component placement, timely arrival, and rescue. The fighters on the enemy's side started shouting. Hargan was ready to attack. Jaehyun moved to suppress him, but Jaehyun proved far more powerful with his sword. With great speed and agility, he launched a swift counterattack and defeated them one by one. Because of this, the enemies fell to the ground completely while Chan stood tall. Smiling confidently, he said, "All of you attack me together. Even then, nothing will change. You guys will defeat me." Then it was revealed that his real name was Ahn Jaehyun, and his title was Hero the Slayer. Seeing this, Jaehyun's companions were filled with regret. The companions began to apologize to Jun. They admitted that they had dragged him into such a dangerous fight. They confessed that they had no hope, and while it was expected that the enemy might set a trap, Jun's apology was rejected. Jun, who had lost faith, assured them it wasn't their fault. Then he extended his hand toward their leader. The leader was surprised, looking at Jun very impressed by his simple gesture. Those standing around them became more emotional. The rest of the group also expressed their feelings emotionally. The name of Jun was repeated several times, and the deeds he had done were gratefully acknowledged. However, Jun insisted again that it wasn't his fault. He further explained that the real problem was someone else, someone who, due to their lack of skill, always arrived late. Jun was clearly pointing towards Shri. Then, turning towards Shri with a mocking smile, Jun asked, "Are you with me? Do you agree with Mr. Jun?" Shri began making fun of her friends, and then herself, in a mocking tone. She said that no matter how many weaklings come together, it wouldn't make any difference in the end. Soon, the true identity of Shri was revealed. Her full name was Chai Sealin, and she was a member of a group called Thunder Hunters, carrying the title Thunder Queen. Jun mocked her again, saying that she was always angry, attacking without thinking, and repeatedly losing to the people she loved. Shri considered these words trash and, filled with anger, warned Jun not to jump too much, otherwise he would regret it. But Jun only laughed. With a casual motion, he pulled out a mysterious object and sarcastically asked, "Regret? Seriously?" It was clear he had no fear at that moment. Jun activated the first slot, causing a tremendous change in his appearance. A powerful and unique battle outfit appeared on him after the transformation. With a confident smile, he said to Shri, "Only weak people like you regret." Feeling Jun's provocation, Shri's anger increased. She shouted and gave an order to her group, "Agent Pastor, and commanded them to immediately finish Jun. But Jun stood there, unbothered, with a challenging smile, saying clearly, "No matter how much you try, you'll never get me. You will be able to hit me, but only on Jian's face." Suddenly, a shock ran through Jun, something he hadn't expected. He was stomped hard from behind. Standing there, behind him were the comrades he trusted the most. At the next moment, his screen began flashing warning signals, indicating that his health points were falling fast and his movements were now restricted. Jin was in total disbelief. He asked with difficulty, "How can one of my companions do this?" Sadness filled his voice. One of the companions apologized and admitted, "Yes, I betrayed you." The group leader, too, betrayed him. The traitor explained the reason. He needed money. He then requested Jun to understand and assured him that he didn't hate him. Jun was filled with anger and disbelief. He couldn't comprehend how the people he loved the most, those he considered close friends, could betray him like this. At that very moment, Shri appeared. Laughing cruelly as if it was all just entertainment, Shri made fun of Jun, taunting him about his belief in the fake friendship he had with his teammates. She mocked the bond he insisted was real, declaring that such emotions had no meaning when it came to money. Then she moved closer to him and said that now she would make sure he would be out of the game permanently. Continuing the insult, Shri said that if she kept hitting him like this every time he logged in and took even one step in the game, she would remind him that in real life he was a worthless nobody, that the game was his real world. Then, with a mocking smile, she added, "Now you have become the same pathetic person again." Unable to tolerate the insult any longer, Jun burst out in anger and jumped to attack her, shouting, "Shut up!" But his attack went in vain. He was easily knocked down, and his blood spilled on the ground. As everyone stood around him, Jun, filled with anger and deep pain, thanked them all with his last breath. He cried out, "I did this for you guys. Why did you cheat on me even though I trusted you?" One of his old comrades shouted at him in reply, "Now die." He further explained that they'd been given hundreds of millions to kill him. After getting so much money, what else could they do? For them, it was all just a great hobby, causing so much trouble and betrayal just for the sake of money. They even reminded Jun how he once said they were all like a family. And now, that very family had betrayed him. But now, there was no expression of remorse on their faces. Soyeon was smiling on the screen as the word dead flashed repeatedly. Then the game restarted and gave the official message that Jun was dead, informing him that now he could not log in for 48 hours. The death penalty had opened, and those who died would temporarily lose their eyesight inside the game. Now back in the real world, Jun was completely drained and physically exhausted from the trauma he had just experienced inside the game. At that very moment, he was completely broken, suffering deeply, and drowning in sorrow. He admitted to himself, "I have lost everything in the game world." Information appeared on the screen, stating that this was one of the world's most popular and successful games. Later, a livestream clip played where players were fighting a powerful red dragon while viewers screamed with excitement. This game was built on advanced virtual reality technology and generated an unimaginable amount of money. That game was the only thing Jun was good at, the only thing he had ever succeeded at. In real life, he was always considered worthless, trash even. He recalled the past when he first showed his exceptional skills in the game. An impressed player had come to him, shocked by his abilities, and asked, "What is your level?" Jun had smiled proudly at that time. He was offered a team up, and at that moment, for the first time, Jun felt a sense of belonging. Now, remembering all of it, what had happened to him, for a moment he thought he would forgive those who had betrayed him. But within seconds, a wave of intense anger passed through him. Rage ran inside him and completely changed his decision. Jun decided that he would find them all and take revenge on each one of them for whatever they did to him. All those pains and all those betrayals came flooding back. He started remembering the sacrifices he had made for them. Burning with anger, he made a call to someone whose name was Dong-soo. Jun was running on the road, deeply drowned in thought, and did not even realize that the signal had turned red. By the time he realized it, it was too late. He thought to himself, "I wish I knew earlier that everything would end like this." Maybe I would have never cared for anyone. But as he was trying to escape his thoughts, a speeding truck hit him hard. The scene was filled with blood all around. People screamed, shouting that someone had been hit by a truck. Jin was lying on the ground, caught between life and death. As he struggled, he heard his phone ring. The voice said, "The number you have called is unavailable. Please try again later." At that moment, he felt another cruel irony. Of all the things that happened, the one that hit him was a garbage truck. With great difficulty, Jun thought, "I can't die yet." A painful memory flashed in his mind, the memory of his old friends yelling at him, telling him to die, mocking him. He remembered their faces when they betrayed him. With his last breath, he swore, "I will take revenge, that too ruthlessly." Just then, a bright light shone around him, as if some mysterious connection was being established. Another notification popped up, stating, "Connection is being verified." At the same time, a new message came, welcoming him back into the game under the username Harkin. Jun was completely shocked to see this. Now, he had to face a legendary challenge. The Beast Man-Eater, the Lord of the Labyrinth, and that too in the tutorial stage of the game. Stunned by the seriousness of this tutorial, Jun was left asking himself, what happened now? A new player nearby was feeling frustrated and shouted, "Come to your senses and help me. The monster is attacking. We'll all die soon." Jun quickly realized that defeating the creature alone was impossible, so they all joined together and made a plan to fight. During the conversation, Jun said in disbelief, "It is the same monster," which was removed from a game 5 years ago because of its difficulty. His teammate responded with surprise, saying the game Warlord was launched just 10 months ago. Jun kept repeating this in disbelief, unable to comprehend it. Noticing Jun's strange behavior, his teammates asked, "What's wrong? Why are you reacting like this?" But Jun ignored the instructions. While the teammates said, "Focus, be ready, signal when we meet," Jun said nothing and silently started walking away from the group. This made everyone confused. Jun's teammates started shouting and asking where he was going, but he stayed silent and kept moving forward, which only increased their confusion even more. Then one of them shouted, "What are you doing? Have you gone crazy? The monster is standing right in front of you." Suddenly, the beast charged towards Jun at full speed. The teammates panicked and started shouting, telling him to step back, warning that he would die. But Jun didn't hesitate for even a moment. He faced the monster with full confidence, swiftly revolving and delivering a powerful strike that killed the creature with a fatal blow. Everyone watching his strength was stunned. The beast roared loudly before collapsing, and Jun's devastating attack sent 2 of the players falling back in shock. They stood there, unable to believe that Jun had defeated the monster in just one shot. Both of them looked at him in surprise, then smiled, and one of the players openly praised Jun's talent. He extended his hand, inviting Jun to join their guild. But that simple gesture reminded Jun of a painful memory, the very moment he had once been betrayed. Jun's expression changed instantly. Anger lit up in his eyes. He said coldly, "I made my decision a while ago." Both players were confused, asking what decision he was talking about. But before they could understand anything, Jun struck. There was only rage in his eyes, a rage that demanded bloodshed. Jun was completely shattered inside. He said to himself with strict resolve, "If in this life I ever trust anyone again, even a dog would be more trustworthy than me." A message appeared on his screen. "Hero Slayer, Herculean Past. I am back." At that very moment, Jun opened his eyes and found himself in a strange place. He removed the virtual reality helmet from his head, looking around in confusion, trying to understand where he was. After a while, he realized that he was inside a gaming store, specifically a V-Gear shop selling VR equipment. As his memory started to come back, he remembered that 5 years ago, he was poor and used to play in this store because he didn't have the money to buy his own gear. A question echoed in Jun's mind. Was I actually back in the past? When the thoughts settled in, he immediately decided that if this really was the past, then a lot had happened that he could now change. The store was becoming increasingly crowded, but he moved forward, his mind working faster than ever. He reminded himself that now he had the knowledge of the next 5 years and experience. If used correctly, he could take revenge without hesitation. Without wasting any more time, he approached a store clerk, handed over his payment card, and said, "I need the best V-Care unit." The clerk, a little nervous but smiling, replied, "I'll help you right away, sir." Inside Jun, a wave of excitement and anxiety surged. He started planning his next moves, how to level up quickly, how to move faster. But a little while later, the clerk called him over and said with a sorry tone, "Sorry, sir, the balance on your card is insufficient, so the purchase can't be completed." Hearing this, Jun's face turned slightly pale. He smiled bitterly to himself, realizing he had forgotten just how poor he had been in the past. He stood there, drowned in frustration, cursing himself. Back then, he used to play here because he never had enough money to buy his own device. Now the pressure started building up inside him. He began thinking hard. How could he quickly earn money without wasting precious time? Just then, his eyes fell on a nearby advertisement screen. It was showing the image of Siri in a campaign promoting the game. A bold voice echoed from the ad. "What are you waiting for?" Siri's words were strong and commanding. "Strong people challenge. Hesitation is a luxury no one can afford." Jun stood silently in front of the advertisement, thunder flashing across the screen, while Queen Siri's voice called everyone to become true masters of war. He remained there, frozen, lost deep in thought. The bold caption flashing in front of him read, "Warlord, start now." He stood there thinking about his current situation, about what his next step should be. But then, Shri's mocking face and taunts began echoing inside his mind again. The same useless failures haunted him. But this time, something different stirred in Jun's eyes, a concrete determination. He told himself that hesitation was a luxury he no longer had. It was time for action. As the sun began to set, the scene shifted. Jun was now inside his small and simple apartment. A new VWare gaming system had just been delivered and installed. The technician said, "Setup is complete," and quickly left. Jun simply gave a short, curt reply. He stood there, thinking, holding a card in his hand. This was the fastest way to earn money now, he told himself. The card was an advertisement for a quick and easy loan service with a small amount required to get started. A little while later, Jun was sitting opposite a man, asking for a loan of 10 million baht. The man casually replied, "Something big will happen, never mind." But then he changed his tone. Suddenly, the man slammed the card on the table and placed a knife right on top of it. There was a direct and chilling message in his eyes. "If you don't return the money, your life will become hell." Chan was scared from inside, but he didn't say anything. The risk was high, but Jun took the card anyway and told himself, "I don't care about the consequences." Slowly, he began wearing the VR headset, thinking in his heart, "If I have to go down to hell to change everything, then I'm ready to face them one by one." All the faces that had wronged him started flashing before his eyes. The anger and fire burning inside him betrayed his calm expression. The star connection was loading, and he gritted his teeth in fury. The system quickly recognized him and confirmed, "Login successful. Welcome back, Hurakan." Now, Jun was once again inside the world of Warlord, taking on the character of Hurakan. He stood silently, as if waiting for someone special. Deep inside, he tried to remember the name. Someone important was about to appear. A shining girl appeared before him, golden energy swirling around her. Her blonde hair glowed with a bright light. She smiled and introduced herself. "I'm Ariadne, and I will be the guide of your journey." Jun immediately recognized her, his expression tightening. Ariadne extended her hand towards him, her attention completely on him, and began explaining the basic rules of the game. She said, "You have 3 starter classes available right now. You must choose one. The skills you pick now will determine the direction of your specialization later." This was not just choosing a class. Jun knew this was the very first step of his entire story. Ariadne first explained the warrior class, direct combat, fighting on the front lines. Jun thought for a moment about that class, considering that he already had some experience with weapons. Maybe he could level up faster that way. But then he rejected it. He knew deep down that walking the path of a frontline fighter alone would be too difficult. Next, Ariadne introduced the cleric class, a support role, healing and helping others. Jin didn't even waste a single moment thinking about it. He plainly said to Ariadne, "I have no intention of protecting or supporting anyone." Now, only one option was left. Ariadne smiled slightly and said, "Good luck. Enjoy your adventure." Then, she started activating his selection. Golden magical energy began to radiate from her hands. The swirling energy rose and surrounded Jun, wrapping him in a blinding golden light, all sides, darkening his face. There was a surprised expression flickering across his features, and then a system message appeared. Base class selected. You will now be taken to the tower of your choice. The scene shifted. Jun arrived at a mysterious, towering structure. A powerful, resounding voice echoed through the space. "Welcome, youngsters seeking knowledge." It was the voice of Golko, the master responsible for the desk class. Golko, who trained players in the mystic arts, asked, "What magic do you want to learn?" Without hesitation, Jun replied, "Dark magic." Golko was left stunned for a moment. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. He asked softly, "What do you mean? Dark magic?" There were many forms of magic, but Jun stood firm. Again he answered, "I told you, I will only learn dark magic." Golko's expression changed instantly. Worry was clearly visible on his face now. He warned Jun, "Dark magic is very dangerous. It can destroy your soul." But Jun replied in a cold, clear tone, "I know the risk, and I have chosen this path myself." Golko started trembling slightly. Seeing such a bold decision shook even him. Then, suddenly, Golko began changing form, his body twisting into a terrifying, shadowy skeletal figure. Mockingly, he said, "It has been a long time since anyone chose this path." Then a skill book appeared in front of Golko. He said, "If you're really ready, put your hand on this book. But remember to think carefully. This path is not easy." There was a fire of determination burning fiercely in Jun's eyes. He wasn't going to turn back now, not even for a second. Without hesitation, Jun placed his hand on the skill book, ignoring Golko's warning. Golko shook his head and muttered, "I already told you. This is the path of fools. It is not for those who walk without thinking." But Jun smiled confidently and replied, "I am not the one who can be called a fool." Jun's unwavering confidence made Golko laugh loudly. He was genuinely impressed. "You are very interesting. Such people are rare," Golko said. At that very moment, a memory flashed through Jun's mind, a famous video from his past life. He remembered a player who used necromancy, the dark art of summoning the dead, to defeat a powerful boss alone without any help. The thought crystallized in Jun's mind. This was the power he would claim. Then a system message popped up. "Congratulations. You have officially become a necromancer. Title unlocked, Novice Necromancer. Skill unlocked, Skeleton Shard." A confident smile returned to Jun's face once again. Repeating the name of his new skill, Skeleton Shard, Jun activated the skill. Energy gathered in his hand, and a skeletal head began to form. When he threw it onto the ground, the magical white energy slowly began taking the shape of a skeleton warrior. A message appeared. To complete the skeletal warrior, you need to believe in your selection. Jun silently watched the skeleton forming and said to himself, "This time, I will become a necromancer at any cost." As soon as Jun's skeleton was fully formed, the transformation into a true necromancer was complete. Now he was ready. Smiling, he said, "Let's level up." Then he asked himself, "Where is the training dungeon?" But before he could move, he noticed something weird. His new summoned skeleton was holding its own skull and bouncing like a ball. Jun stood stunned, watching the skeleton's bizarre behavior. He thought, why is the skeleton behaving like this? Without wasting any more time, he entered the glowing portal and reached the beginner training dungeon. But even there, his doubt grew stronger. The skeleton was still behaving strangely, not at all like he remembered. Is the skill still at a low level? He wondered. Immediately, he opened the skill window and started reading the details. From there, he figured out the reason. Maybe the skeleton was acting like this because of low mastery level. Now he understood. To fix this, he would have to increase the level quickly. At that moment, a loud thunder echoed through the dungeon. Creatures had appeared, coal wolves. They weren't very strong, but they were fast. A decent challenge for the skeleton. Jun set his eyes on the wolves and, without delay, threw a skeleton shard at the enemies. The magical energy surged forward. The skeleton formed completely this time, ready for battle. As soon as the enemies appeared, the skeleton sensed them. The wolves took combat stances, growling slowly and cautiously. Jun, confident and smug, gave the command to the skeleton to attack. The skeleton immediately rushed forward and attacked the wolves fiercely. Jun was shocked. The skeleton was performing better than he expected. He felt a surge of hope. If everything went on like this, he could reach the top level soon. But his surprise soon turned into shock. The skeleton's bones scattered all over the ground. Jun stood frozen, disbelief all over his face. What happened? The skeleton had just collapsed. His expression twisted in confusion. He felt like the system was mocking him. Panic rose inside him as he quickly opened the skill window, desperate to find where he had gone wrong. Reading through it, he realized the problem. The skeleton's combat mode wasn't set. There was a built-in AI system that learned from battle experience and had 3 modes: defense, offense, and a special mode. Jun slapped his forehead, sighing heavily. "Hey friend, this was basic," he muttered. Then he activated the defensive mode. Suddenly, the skeleton's eyes flashed brightly. But before Jun could celebrate, he watched in horror. The wolves started dragging the skeleton like it was a toy, tearing it apart piece by piece. There was no resistance at all. The defensive mode left Jun even more stunned. Desperation creeping in, he quickly activated the third option, special mode, hoping that maybe something would finally go right. But what happened next crushed all his hopes. The skeleton suddenly started dancing. Yes, genuinely dancing. Jun stared in disbelief as his skeleton began doing dance moves in the middle of the battlefield. He immediately realized the situation was beyond saving. Tears welled up in his eyes. He blamed himself, thinking, "What have I done?" The skeleton was completely destroyed, lying broken on the ground. Clutching his head, Jun groaned, "I'm going to lose my mind." He made up his mind then and there. He was going to delete the character immediately. He tried, but the system message had been popping up for 3 months straight. Do not delete short-term character accounts. Maybe now Jun was truly trapped. There was only one thing before his eyes: complete humiliation. Sitting on the ground in despair, the drowned Jun mumbled, "I can't even marry my chosen class." He realized he couldn't even change his class anymore. That's when he remembered something even worse. The loan installments were about to start from next month. Thinking sarcastically, he muttered, "Maybe I'll get hit by a car again. Why is my luck so bad right now?" As everything seemed to spiral downward, he tried to encourage himself, saying things were just starting to get better. He cast a frustrated glance at the useless skeleton standing nearby, the same skeleton that hadn't helped him even once. His frustration flared, and he began scolding the skeleton. "You're driving me crazy. Don't move. Stay right there." The skeleton stood awkwardly in place. Suddenly, a memory from his past life flashed through Jun's mind: a skilled necromancer. He recalled how that guy controlled his skeletons flawlessly. He started thinking, was that guy a fool? How did he train those skeletons? Then, an idea struck him like lightning. Immediately, he opened the skill description window again. Digging deeper this time, he found something crucial he had completely missed before. The creature came with a deep learning system. It gained experience through battle. This was the real key. Jun realized that his skeleton had actually been observing and learning from the Coal Wolves' fight. Filled with newfound determination, he walked over to the skeleton and sat next to it. He stood up and said confidently, "How lucky are you that I am your master?" The skeleton tilted its head slightly, confused, staring at Jun like a little girl seeing a superhero. Grinning, Jun said, "People call me a genius because I taught every guy on my team to reach the top. Then he added, "There's a golden rule to remember. If you attack and can't dodge, you die." Saying this, Jun suddenly punched the skeleton. It fell hard onto the ground. But Jun didn't stop. Every time the skeleton got up, he launched another attack. While hitting it repeatedly, he kept explaining, "Don't just stand there like an idiot after taking a hit. Think, how will you counter?" Then he asked sharply, "Did you understand?" The skeleton stood up, taking a ready stance. A new seriousness flickered in its glowing eyes, and a confident look settled on its face. Jun smiled. "Now you're my real training." After some time, coal wolves reappeared, ready to attack. This time, Jun stood aside and watched as the skeleton charged forward on its own. It immediately began applying what it had learned, dodging skillfully at the right moments, counterattacking with sharp strikes. The skeleton fought with impressive skill now, and Jun couldn't take his eyes off it. Suddenly, in the middle of fighting, the skeleton paused and turned to look at Jun with deep admiration in its glowing eyes. Jun stared back and scolded it mildly. "Don't look at me like that, idiot, fight properly." But then Jun smiled a little and said, "Your last move wasn't bad." Jun's skill, fragment of the skeleton, started to improve faster as he continued training and fighting alongside his skeleton. He kept pushing himself too. Then, a system message appeared, "Player level up." Seeing this, a different kind of satisfaction and happiness washed over him. After that, he headed towards a new player's village, Figus Castle, which was bustling with fresh players. While walking through the village, Jun began to think that this skeleton was truly a testament to the hard work he had put in. It was worth it. He felt that if he could get 2 or 3 more days of training, he could comfortably clear the training dungeon solo. But then, a real challenge crept into his mind. The first step was to reach level 10. Just then, a voice called out from behind. "Oi!" Jun turned around and saw a big man standing there with some of his followers. The man was shouting in anger. Apparently, Jun had bumped his shoulder without realizing it, and now the thug was furious that Jun hadn't apologized. Jun started thinking, "This looks like the third-rate red thugs, wasting my precious time." He seriously considered finishing them off right there when one of the men suddenly moved to attack. But before Jun could react, someone else intervened. A man wearing strange clothes casually stepped in and easily stopped the attacker's hand. With a smile, he said, "It's not right to kill such people, understand?" The big man growled angrily. "Who are you? Are you with him?" But the newcomer simply replied, "I'm not okay with this." Jun immediately recognized the man, Methador Shev, a very famous person from his past life, a powerful warrior. Jun confirmed it by glancing at the man's massive muscles and the signature odd number branded on his gear. This is what Jun took in so clearly that he remembered Methador was, in his past life, the first-class warrior and the most powerful player. He couldn't understand what such a legendary personality was doing at a place like this. Jun felt a bit confused and uneasy. On the other hand, Methador started mocking the attacker's behavior, imitating him in a sarcastic way. The attacker grew tired and started justifying himself, saying, "First he hit me, and if you didn't know that, then why are you getting involved?" Methador smiled coolly and said, "There's an old saying, an eye for an eye." But the next moment, Methador released a dangerous combat aura. Fear was clearly visible on the faces of the attackers. The big man froze completely, while Jun stood there carefully watching the whole scene unfold. Methador, still calm and sarcastic, said, "You punched me in the palm, so now I too have a right." Then suddenly one of the tired attackers screamed, "You're crazy." "This is Method Shev," he spoke in a fearful voice, trembling. "He's the leader of Red Bull's guild, the guild that's ranked top 30. This is the same Methador that people call the killer because he's absolutely crazy about fighting." The attacker was completely shocked, realizing that such a huge figure had gotten involved in such a minor incident. Methador slowly advanced toward him and, with an angry tone, said, "Now, your answer?" The attacker was so scared he couldn't speak. The next moment, he stood there trembling. Then suddenly his companions turned tail and fled, apologizing as they ran off without even looking back. Methador smiled and said, It's just amazing how matters get resolved through talks. Then he turned to Jun with a friendly smile and asked, "Are you okay? Don't take such people seriously." But Jun just silently took a step back. Seeing Jun's reaction like this, Methador was a little shocked. Then Jun looked at him and said in a cold voice, "Now I need your help." Without saying anything more, Methador walked away lightly. He smiled and said, "This guy is so cold." Jun walked away by himself, feeling angry and frustrated because he was feeling so weak. His hands trembled before the might of Methador. He clearly admitted it to himself. "I was scared." But at that moment, he made a firm promise. "Next time I meet Methador, I'll meet him as a completely different person." There was a different sense of determination in his eyes now. There was a glow, and his face turned absolutely serious. The scene shifted back to the training dungeon where a soft fire was burning on the walls. Jun sat alone, thinking about how massive the gap was between him and a powerful player like Methador. Then he remembered another figure, a being just as big and powerful. Jun realized that if he ever wanted to take revenge, he would have to become much stronger than he was now. Suddenly, a powerful beast resembling a tiger appeared. It launched a sharp attack at him, but Jun's skeleton companion immediately jumped in between. Using its newly learned skills, the skeleton attacked the tiger aggressively. The tiger struggled a lot while fighting against the skeleton's relentless assault. It received heavy damage, and the battle ended shortly after. A system notification popped up, "Cold Tiger killed." This led to Jun leveling up. But even after this success, Jun wasn't happy. Reaching level 10 had taken him 3 whole days, more than he had expected. Although Skeleton looked proud and happy, Jun's disappointment was obvious. Skeleton tilted its head, unable to understand why Jun looked so upset. Then a new message appeared. "Congratulations. You have reached level 10. All monsters in the beginner's area have been cleared. The beginner's mark has been withdrawn. Rewards will now be distributed." Reading this, happiness finally spread across Jun's face. Then, a device appeared on his wrist. The War Watch was revealed. It had many features: status, quests, map, inventory, and it also worked as a communication device. For the first time in a long while, Jun felt really good. Using the device, he requested to open the status window. In the next moment, it appeared: name, Haken level, 10 class. Necromancer. He already had some points allocated in his stats. Strength, 3 stamina, 3 intelligence, 2 mana, 5. Then a new message came: "Please distribute your earned points." This was the first time Jun thought seriously about how to allocate them. Normally, as a necromancer, one would invest in intelligence or mana. But Jun did something completely unexpected. With confidence, he put all his points into strength. Another message popped up: strength plus 50. Jun looked at his hand where another window floated. Total strength, 53. A smile slowly formed on Jun's face. He was completely satisfied with the choice he made. It felt perfect according to him. But the skeleton stood beside him, staring at Jun with wide, confused eyes. Jun's disappointment was clearly visible. It was as if Skeleton thought Jun had given up his dream of becoming a necromancer by putting all stat points into strength. Seeing this, Jun got irritated and started shouting at Skeleton. Then he asked, "Why are you staring like that?" He lightly struck the skeleton on the head and said, "I haven't given up being a necromancer, understand? I am teaching you to grow. I am helping you." He left it at that. Jun believed that even if he increased intelligence, it wouldn't matter much. By increasing physical strength, he could reach the peak of his past combat techniques and transfer that training to the skeleton. Then in a serious manner, he said, "I am risking my life for you. Focus on growth." With a confident smile, he added, "There are more ways to make up for the lack of stats." After this, Jun headed towards Figus Castle. He made his way to the Adventurers Guild building where a huge crowd of new adventurers had gathered, all excited and arguing with each other about the quests. Jun had to understand which quest he could take that was available for now. The quests weren't that great, but the enthusiasm in everyone was clear. After all, they were all beginners. He approached a staff member of the guild and said, "I want to take on a quest." The staff member looked at him with surprise and said, The only quests left are very difficult. No one wants to take them. Are you sure? Jin paused and looked at the quest list carefully. He saw that the quests were really useless, but then a confident expression came to his face. He said to himself, "Finally, this is the hidden card I was looking for." The quest he chose was called Mount Pima Cave. The objective was to eliminate all the low-level monsters around Mount Pima, and the reward was only 10 gold coins. The staff member frowned and asked, "Are you really taking such a low-reward quest?" Jun replied with certainty, "Yes, I will. I'm absolutely sure." He knew that if he completed this boring quest before reaching level 15, he would get a rare title, Prospect. He remembered that titles greatly boosted character stats, and the Prospect title specifically gave percentage-based stat boosts, which could make him very powerful, even overpowered. With confidence burning in his heart, Jun thought, "From here, my real journey will begin, like a legend." Then Jun immediately started the next step of his plan. He announced with excitement, "Now first, I have to prepare some necessary equipment." After some time, he reached Mount Pima, where his quest was supposed to take place. But as soon as he saw his reflection, shock and frustration began to show on his face. The gear he had was absurdly bright and strange. He was wearing weird clothes and looked as if he had come straight out of a circus. Embarrassed by his awkward appearance, Jin became filled with anger and irritation. He screamed in his heart, "What the hell is this?" He remembered that when he had gone to buy good clothes, he didn't have enough money because he had spent most of it on Skeleton's gear. Because of that, he had to buy cheap, ridiculous-looking equipment for himself. But now, Jun was determined. "I have to finish this quest quickly so I can afford proper clothes." Gritting his teeth, he moved into the jungle to complete the mission as fast as possible. As soon as Jun stepped out of the bushes, a blood-soaked hand reached out, as if making one last attempt for help. The injured person fell unconscious in the grass right in front of him. The boy, lying there with blood on his face, struggled to make any sound. He was gasping for breath, but his voice was lost, his trembling fingers leaving a trail of failed hopes on the ground. A few boys stood at a distance, their sinister expressions twisted into cruel smiles. They laughed as they watched the condition of their victim, taking pleasure in someone else's pain. Somewhere deeper in that same forest, a young man, living in a corner of the woods, shouted happily. Maine finally mounted insurance came. His name was Multi Joe, and he stood proudly in his shining armor. "Now my adventure begins. I'm level 11 now. Maybe I'll make it to the top rankers." His praise was suddenly cut short when he heard a scream from nearby. "Rescue!" Immediately, he ran toward the sound of the scream, seeing a man carrying his injured friend, pleading for help. "The creature that attacked us. It wasn't like any normal monster," the man said, trembling. Multi's expression turned serious as he asked for details. The injured man, still shaking, managed to stammer out a few more words, barely able to speak. "It was huge, terrifying. It had glowing eyes." Multi's interest peaked, his grip tightening around his weapon. He turned to the man and said, "Show me where it happened." The voice of the injured man was trembling as he spoke. "We were just lucky. I was able to escape with my life, but now there's no healing potion that can help. My friend's condition is getting worse." Multi consoled him, saying, "I have some potions. I'll give them to you immediately." The gray-haired man, filled with gratitude, started rummaging through his bag, tears in his eyes as he thanked Multi. "We will definitely return this favor one day," he said. But at that moment, Multi glanced at his watch. Before he could react, a man attacked from behind, knocking him to the ground. Blood soaked the ground around him, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Disbelief filled his eyes as he lay there, struggling for air. The attacker stood over him, laughing. "So innocent, so trusting. Perfect target," one of them sneered. "Now, we'll make good use of everything you've got," another said. Their leader let out a cruel laugh. "This was a cheap trap, and yet you fell for it, foolish noob." A system notification popped up. Player hit Multi, then another appeared. Players wore watch drops to the ground as loot. The gang gathered around, laughing at the watch. "Newbies never get old," one of the men said with a grin. Their leader, still smiling dangerously, added, "Let's find the next victim." He proudly displayed the Raff family guild symbol, a notorious guild known for its cruelty. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, Jun's skeleton stood in the shadows, ready for action. Two large trees loomed ahead, and the beasts lingering in the darkness howled. Wooden wolves, their glowing red eyes striking fear into any who dared approach. "Attack mode," Jun ordered, raising his finger. The skeleton's eyes gleamed with a bright blue glow as it sprang into action. Its sword cut through the air, swiftly and decisively. One wolf fell after another as the skeleton attacked with precision. The system buzzed with notifications. Skeleton warrior defeats antique tree wolf. 375 XP gained. Jun gains 366 XP. A small smile spread across Jun's face as he thought to himself, "I did a good thing." After gearing up his skeleton, Jun glanced at his own strange, brightly colored clothes and muttered to himself, "No matter how weird I look, as long as the work gets done, it's fine." The skeleton, noticing its master's attire, grabbed its head in a funny way, as if embarrassed for Jun's condition. Jun glared at it and said, "Shut up and get ready. We'll level up quickly and clear this place." The skeleton obediently picked up its weapon and moved forward. But just as it was about to strike, a sudden, sharp sound pierced the air. An arrow shot at breakneck speed and hit the skeleton straight in the head, freezing in place. Jun was completely shocked and immediately became alert, scanning his surroundings for the source of the arrow. Soon, two men approached casually, offering an apology. "Sorry," one said. "We thought you guys were monsters." They moved closer, explaining the situation in a laid-back manner. Jun, keeping quiet, accepted their apology, but a slight tremor appeared on his face as he noticed something odd. One of the men wore a war watch on his wrist, hidden beneath his clothes. There was blood on the watch, and the weapon slung over his shoulder also had traces of blood. Jun's mind raced. Wow, how wonderful. These guys have nerve. He instantly understood they had come to trick him. Before the moment grew awkward, the narrator stepped in with a grin and said, "Let's help you level up. Consider it our apology." John looked uncertain. "Okay, do you really want to help?" he asked. The narrator simply nodded. This was, after all, how things worked in the jungle. Just then, the distant roar of wild animals echoed through the trees. One of the pair smiled and said, "It's the perfect time to start leveling up." He turned to John and laid out the plan. They would weaken the monsters, and John would deliver the finishing blow to gain the experience points. John agreed, but his gaze lingered on them suspiciously. From behind, the two whispered to each other, as if quietly advancing some hidden agenda. Up ahead, the bulky warrior raised his weapon and asked, "Are you confirming then?" They deliberately provoked the wooden wolves, which made the monsters angry. His fellow mage cast a spell that increased the wolves' attack power. Then he pushed a wolf toward John and started acting, "Oops, happened by mistake." John was surprised. The wolf ran straight at him. He immediately raised his hands to defend himself. Those two, standing far away, were ready for this. They looked forward to seeing John fall down screaming. But in the next moment, John and Skeleton used teamwork to rescue the situation. John knocked the wolf out in just a few seconds. As soon as he won, he stared at Skeleton. He asked, "Why did it take so long to react?" John and Skeleton felt a little embarrassed. Skeleton took a pose, as if he too had realized that his reaction time needed to be improved. John gave him a confident smile. He gave a thumbs up to the others and said, "Let's go. Continue your experiment." They were both shocked to see such power. They didn't expect that. Now, all three of them gradually started to have questions in their minds. Let's see what level this guy actually is. Is he really a beginner? They came up with a new plan. This time, many of them would send a big wave of monsters together so that he couldn't handle it. John got busy fighting monsters. The warrior used stealth to attack from behind. He seized the opportunity and swung his heavy hammer in the air. He lifted himself up and screamed. This time someone won't make a mistake. He hit the hammer with all his might. He was sure this attack would fall directly on John. But in the next moment, John dodged the attack with perfect timing. The man was astonished, his eyes wide. His attack had missed. In front of him, John countered with lightning speed. The sword twisted from beneath his massive body and ripped open his chest. Blood oozed out, and he stumbled. At that moment, Skeleton attacked from the other side and surrounded him completely. The two thieves were shocked to see all of this. One of them screamed, "What are you seeing?" Meanwhile, John, without wasting a moment, gave the command to Skeleton, "Attack." Skeleton's eyes started glowing with blue light. Then both John and Skeleton moved faster than lightning. In just a few seconds, both of them had grown stronger. One of them got close to the enemies. The thief started shouting out of fear, "Wait, listen, can talk." But John told her to stop. Skeleton and John ignored him. John hit a double strike. It was so powerful that both enemies jumped into the air and felt the pain. They fell to the ground, screaming. The body was blown away in a wave of blue energy while John and Skeleton stood by. John turned slowly and said, "I know. How can people like you be trusted? You break, you rob, you cheat." Then he slowly moved towards the injured person and said, "Maybe I'd fall into your trap first, but not anymore." The thief lying on the ground was crying and pleading, "Please take everything. I'll give you my life. Just spare me." But John had turned cold. He said just two words in a flat voice, "Can't be." And without any mercy, he gave him the final blow. The very next moment, a notification came on the screen. Player Ralph died, honorless. For echoes dropped from it. They found out how many people had been killed by them. Then John said laughingly, "That just now is the most sensible thing to do in the situation." Taking full advantage of all the spoils, they started with the clothes. Skeleton shouted loudly at the corpse of his massive opponent, kicking him like he was venting all his anger. There was blood on the bones, but he looked at John differently. He stared at him, and John looked back at him warmly. John asked, "Do you also need something?" Skeleton went near her, extended his hand, and gave her the blue magic. She healed with light, after which Skeleton raised his sword in joy. Now it was new. He was wearing pants and was a proud guy. John stood like a warrior, laughing. He said, "Do you like this new look so much?" Then he calmed down a bit and talked about his appearance in the game. He said it doesn't matter how strong you look from the outside. What really counts is the strength within. But even after saying that, John herself started showing off a bit while walking in her new clothes. Looking at Skeleton, she said softly, "War watches turn out to be the real jackpot." She then explained, whenever a player's war watch is sold, a random item from their inventory drops. And that item can be anything like rare black goblin pants, a sword filled with the essence of the ancient tree, or even cursed skill books. Money also started laughing at John's creed and said, "This is where my luck turned, brother." He then raised his hand and showed a special golden mask. Smiling with pride, he said happily, "I expected this. I've completed the craft ahead of time." Then, with determination, he added, "Now I'm going to start recording my gameplay. For that, a solid identity has to be created." He admitted that in order to proceed to the next stage, it was very important to create a unique and different identity. At that very moment, old memories returned to his eyes, memories from when he sat in front of a guild member, excitedly sharing his unique idea. John had proposed, "If our whole guild wears the same mask, then we'll spread throughout the server like wildfire." After some thought, the guy nodded in agreement. John happily announced, "Our new guild will be called Haha Mask." Then he took off the mask he had been holding. He looked at it and thought to himself, he had once dreamed of creating a completely different identity. In the end, this seemed like the right path. John raised the mask into the air. It shimmered with blue magical energy. But then, anger flickered across his face. He thought, now no one cares about my hard work or my items. Yet no anger could steal the glow from his face. He said softly, "Now I will wear this mask and prove the value of every decision I make. I will prove my worth." Then he put on the mask. He looked at Skeleton and said, "Let's go now. Let's go." There was a seriousness in his eyes now. The scene shifted. He was now in a place that looked like an old, broken ruin, cracked mountain terrain that resembled something out of the ancient world. They had reached a place filled with ancient ruins, and in the center stood a massive gate. Jaehyun and skeletons went in through that gate. A message appeared on the screen. "You have entered Cave's dungeon." Inside, Jaehyun slowly neared the stone walls. While walking, he said, "In this place, blue werewolves should have been a little tougher. But now my gear is going to be upgraded. It's over, I'll finish it in 10 minutes, dungeon." He shouted in excitement. Skeletons started running ahead through the narrow passage, and Jaehyun followed him at full readiness. But a few hours later, Jaehyun was lying on his back on the ground, staring up at the ceiling, tired and motionless. Then suddenly, he got up and shouted, "Has even a single monster not come?" He began to rave in anger. "I feel something's wrong. If someone had entered this dungeon and cleared it, a system message would have come. Or it's a bug or something." Then suddenly, his eyes caught something strange stuck on the wall. A glowing mess of swelling purple energy. He quickly moved closer and touched it. It was something different. Suddenly, that energy began spreading rapidly. It was like a new gate was opening around him. The air began to distort and pull inwards. A message appeared on the screen. "You have found the instant dungeon. You have to get in there." Jaehyun knew. Instant dungeons were randomly generated. When one opened inside a normal dungeon, the original dungeon would pause until it was completed. He also knew these dungeons were harder, but the rewards were equally great. But the risk was greater. Either clear it or die. There was no middle path. Jaehyun thought for a moment about backing out. "If I die in 2 days, it would be better if I'm out of the game. I should do some other mission." But in the next moment, his expression changed. He looked straight ahead. He told himself, as he stepped toward the portal, "Just want to complete this. That's all I need." And with that, he went inside the portal completely. With determination, as soon as Jaehyun entered the portal, a bright flashing light engulfed him. His eyes were dazzled, forcing him to raise his hand to shield them. As the light dimmed slightly, he saw that he was now standing in front of a massive arena, right in the center of what looked like a Roman Colosseum. The skeleton was there with him, standing at his side. Jaehyun glanced around and thought to himself, "Is this some kind of arena duel?" A little nervous, he muttered, "Which opponent are we going to get now?" Just then, the ground beneath them started to tremble slowly. Jaehyun was shocked. "What is happening?" he said. A massive, werewolf-like creature burst into the arena with a furious roar. Above its head, the label corrupted werewolf glowed menacingly. Jaehyun took a step back in surprise. Such a powerful monster. Corrupted too? How come? Suddenly, the beast charged at him. Its first attack was so powerful that a shockwave rippled through the arena. Jaehyun was flung straight into the wall, groaning in pain. Dust clouded the air. The skeleton, still standing in the smoke, was startled but quickly planted his feet, raised his sword, and braced himself, his posture showing resolve. Though the situation looked dangerous, Jaehyun stood up again with a sarcastic smile. He laughed and said, "Now all this is comedy, it seems." Then out loud, he added, "Corrupted monsters, too usefully connected to the main quest. That means I turn out to be lucky." He looked over at the skeleton and asked, "Are you ready? Go fight. If you don't beat it, dinner's canceled tonight." With a confident smile, he ran straight toward the monster. The skeleton followed in sync, raising his sword. Jaehyun used that as leverage to leap into the air. As Jaehyun rose, the corrupted werewolf looked up, its gaze fixed, almost as if staring at a delicious prey. At that moment, the whacked gem glowed dark purple from within. Summoning energy that merged into his weapon, Jaehyun activated a skill, Devil Scars. Dark energy coursed through the werewolf, and there was a flicker of surprise in the beast's eyes. The effect was clearly visible. Jaehyun's attack landed directly, causing the werewolf to scream in pain. It stumbled backward, one of its arms slashed and falling. A message appeared on the screen, Skill Devil Scars activated. Enemy attributes decreased by 10%. With a slight smile, Jaehyun remarked, "This is even worse. There's not that much damage the first time, but..." The monster didn't stop. It launched another furious attack. Its next punch came fast. John braced himself for the impact. Then, a new notification popped up. Corrupted werewolf has entered berserk state. Looking at the status effect, John muttered sarcastically, thought the instant dungeon would be easy. But nope, not again. Realizing the danger, he decided to use the special skill he had been saving. In the next moment, he raised his hand and said, "Slot on." He pressed the device on his wrist. Suddenly, a surge of strong blue energy erupted from his body. An explosive wave spread outward in all directions, forming a spiraling energy field around him. The ground shook, and with a loud burst, the glow lit up the entire arena. When the light faded, John stood revealed in a new armor set, surrounded by dark energy. He said, "Now start. Let's do the real fight." That's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy this manhwa as much as I do. And guess what? There's another brand new manhwa recap dropping at the same time. So make sure to check it out. You're definitely going to love it. Thanks for watching.